when you told me you were 26 years old and you were here in Ghana by yourself,
Yes.
I was like, well, wait a minute. There's a story here.
I grew up in a very pro-Black family, so I think I didn't have a Eurocentric mindset to begin with. People thought I was crazy, definitely. People didn't understand why not Paris or why not Greece or something. They were nervous for my safety.
In the 21st century, I was that ignorant to go on Google Earth, and I was expecting to see mud huts and people running in the street half naked.
Right.
And then when I looked over, I saw mansions and I saw swimming pools.
Living in Ghana has transformed my life just in these 6 months. In the US, we definitely live in a bubble, I would say. And it's good to be out of that and see how the rest of the world is living.
Talk about this US bubble.
US bubble.
What is that?
The whole world opened up for me when I came to Ghana, and I realized that I had real options and that it wasn't just work for a company that doesn't respect me in America or maybe try to be a starving artist or something like that, but you have a myriad of options.
Special thanks to Abba Design, Fashion, and Luxe Beauty in East Legon, Accra, Ghana for being an official sponsor. Make sure you stop by Abba for all your trendy fashion needs, flawless manicures, pedicures, stunning hairstyles, beautiful braids, and so much more. Abba Design, Fashion, and Luxe Beauty, where style and beauty meet in perfect harmony. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Maximum Impact with Jay Cameron. Thank you for joining me as we are bridging the gap between Africa and the African diaspora and sharing with you stories, these fascinating stories from people that I'm meeting in my travels. And this young lady right here, I happened to meet her last week on the plane coming back from DC to Ghana. And I was sitting there. And what'd you say to me? You said, hey.
I said, hey, I love your YouTube videos.
Ah.
Yeah.
And so Miss Janai Pleasure, she's here. We're here in Accra, Ghana right now. And she has a really fascinating story because she's 26 years old. And somehow she's living here in Ghana, moved here at the age of 25. And, you know, so many people are afraid to even travel to the continent of Africa. But Janai has been here for the past 6 months or so.
6 months or so, yes.
And we'll get into the story. So welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm feeling good.
Good. Well, thank you for joining me today because when you told me you were 26 years old and you were here in Ghana by yourself,
Yes.
I was like, well, wait a minute. There's a story here. And I knew that there was much more to this. So how did you end up in Ghana?
Yes. How did I end up in Ghana? Well, it all started just on the curiosity of Africa. I grew up in a very pro-Black family, so I think I didn't have a Eurocentric mindset to begin with. So that's like page 1 of my book. So once I finished schooling and I got the job that I wanted and I was in a comfortable, stable place, I was able to start researching and imagining what it could be like traveling to Africa, what country I should go to, what would be the safest option for me. And after doing research and stumbling on videos like yours, I realized that it could be a reality.
Now tell me what it's like growing up in a pro-Black family because
That's a good question.
because a lot of Black children don't grow up in pro-Black families. As a matter of fact, they grow up in the exact opposite.
That is so true.
Yeah. So what was it like for you?
That is so true. Even it's simple down to loving my skin, loving my hair, having pride in the way that I look and the way that I carry myself and my family, where my people come from, loving being Black. That was the environment that I grew up in. I wasn't taught self-hate. So I think I was given a very good start.
What do you think, or how do you think that impacted you as a person? You know, because a lot of us have been taught self-hate.
Yes,
I grew up in a family that they don't want to believe that they're Black. They don't want to believe they have any connection to Africa. So their whole thing is they want to be quote unquote Native American above all. You know, some of that's in there, but they don't want to be African. So what was it like for you? How do you think that impacted you to embrace your Blackness?
I think it made me able to see coming to Africa as an option for me very early on in life. And I think that's how I got here at 25 instead of 55 or 65 like a lot of other expats are they're retired and they're older. I think that start to life is what made me able to consider Africa as a good option and a beautiful, safe place and somewhere that I belong.
Okay. Now, when you started talking about coming to Africa, how did that go by yourself? How did that go over with your friends and family?
People thought I was crazy, definitely. People didn't understand why not Paris or why not Greece or something. And they were nervous for my safety. They didn't know a lot about what the internet or electricity is like in Ghana, but I just encouraged them to do their own research. And then they would see that Accra is a beautiful, developed city, just like any other.
So they were expecting you to be going to stay in a hut somewhere?
Yes, like I was saying earlier, they thought I was going to go live in a mud hut for a year and and have no phone and no computer and things like that. But still on FaceTime.
I tell everybody that was my thought too, really? when I was making my decision to come to Africa. And I was touring between South Africa. I knew I didn't want to go to South Africa first because it was so similar to the US. I didn't know where else to go. And I was like, okay, I see a lot of people going to Ghana. This was before the year of return and the popularity. But I went on Google Earth one night and I was expecting, and I tell everybody in the video, I was ignorant, all right? Yes, in the 21st century, I was that ignorant to go on Google Earth, and I was expecting to see mud huts and people running in the street half naked. Right. And then when I looked over and I saw mansions and I saw swimming pools, that's when I knew I was ignorant at that point. I said, and I have to go see for myself. So a lot of people are in that space, but it's good that you caught it early. Yes. And you caught it at 25. But then something had to happen to where you said, all right, I'm going to get on a plane. Right. And go across the ocean. Yeah.
You know what it is? I think it was realizing that I was in a stable place in my career and I was comfortable. And I'm 25. People don't usually retire till 65. So I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be 40 more years of just this, of trying to climb the corporate ladder. And you understand?
I do.
I was like, okay, I need to do something else first before I fully commit to this. And so then I started looking.
That's interesting because there's so many people in their 40s and 50s. They're waking up and they're saying, I've given 20, 30 years to corporate America or to whatever, the grind. And then they're going back and they're saying, they're realizing that their mortality is in front of their face because they're saying, okay, they've lived to a certain point. And they're like, at some point, this is going to end. Yeah. And they're going back and they're saying, I wish I would have done this sooner. But you are doing what so many wish they would have done sooner. Yeah. Have you heard that from other people?
Yes, definitely from the older people that are here, the other expats. Okay. Yes. They've told me that I'm getting a really good start.
When we come back, the conversation continues. But first, a special message from one of our sponsors. Maximum Impact Travel celebrates the rich history and culture of the African diaspora, connecting travelers to Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean, and Europe. Through carefully curated tours, they showcase the people, traditions, and hidden treasures of these regions, offering unforgettable journeys that honor the beauty and legacy of the African diaspora. Do people still think you're crazy for being here?
No, not anymore, because I'll FaceTime them like in a nice cafe or, you know what I mean, at a nice restaurant, on the beach. So the video chats have spoken for themselves. The proof is there that everything's developed here in Ghana.
Okay, now here's a funny statement I'm going to make, coupled with a question. Okay. Of course, when you moved here, everything was easy and you had no challenges. And just the doors were open wide for you to just come and do whatever you want to do. Is that the case?
Not at all. Not at all. It was not easy, but I will say that I felt welcomed. I did feel welcomed by the people that were around me, and I did feel safe enough to depend on the kindness of strangers while I was getting adjusted, and it worked out well. But absolutely, I ran into challenges, mainly with trying to do business, so trying to purchase items like in the markets and trying to get a fair price on rent. And, you're talking to people, you're trying to understand what should I really be paying for this, So that was one of the challenges. And also, I didn't pay too much attention to like health risks. So I was in walking distance to a beach my first month here. So every night I was walking to the beach, no bug repellent, no nothing. And I definitely paid the price and got sick.
Oh, you got malaria?
Yeah, I did in my first month.
Really?
Yeah, I did. And I had to take it serious though. I had to start wearing bug repellent and
Really?
yeah. So those were the challenges that I faced.
That's a challenge.
I know, right?
Yeah, but you survived it. I mean,
It just felt like a flu, and the medication worked extremely fast. I don't know if you've had it.
No, I haven't.
You've never had it?
No, and I don't ever want to have
Oh my
it.
gosh, wow.
Yeah, and I hope that this conversation does not spark
It won't. You're fine.
malaria.
You're fine.
But you went through malaria, you went through the
My first
challenges. How was it easy finding someplace to live?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I had to get into a lot of the group chats, Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups to talk to other expats and just get recommendations for leasing agents. And I had to talk a lot and figure out what area I want to live in, because I didn't want to just rent an apartment that looks like one in the US.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't want to pay a US price. I wanted to be in Ghana for real. So, yeah, I had to deal with a few leasing agents. It took about 2 weeks to nail down a fair price and a good, safe area for the money that I wanted to pay.
And
So,
you were
yeah.
able to get what you wanted.
Yes, I was.
All
I'm
right.
very happy with my living situation here in Ghana.
And no power issues. Oh, well, yeah, the power issues are normal.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Every now and then,
Every
the
now
power
and
might
then.
go out.
Every now and then. But I take it as a chance to like meditate and unplug. That's one of the things that I actually wanted to get away from living in the US, was being addicted to my phone or always plugged into something or in front of some screen all the time. I felt like coming to the continent would help me at least lose that habit somewhat, and it did.
It did,
Because
somewhat.
when the power goes out, there's no screens anywhere.
Right, so you can't
Yeah.
even. Okay, so other people who are your age, say 25 or even younger, 26, why or how do you think traveling will benefit them because at that age? Because that's the thing, you know. I've seen this. Oh, I'll wait until I get older. You're young, you have time.
Yeah.
Why travel now? Travel later. But then a lot of people who come on my tours are in their 60s and 70s, and they're like, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Right.
So how do you think traveling at a young age, or why do you think that's beneficial?
I think it could shape the rest of your life. I can say with confidence that I'm not the person that I was in July. And when next July comes, I know I won't be the person that I am today. Living in Ghana has transformed my life just in these 6 months. And it's taught me virtues like patience and faith.
Everybody says
I know,
patience.
right? Patience, that I did not have before. So these are life skills and virtues and tools that I can take with me into anything that I do or anywhere that I go for the rest of my life. And just getting the worldview that I needed. In the US, we definitely live in a bubble, I would say. And it's good to be out of that and see how the rest of the world is living. And
What's the bubble? Talk about this U.S. bubble.
US bubble.
What is that?
That's such a strong question. For me, I would just say that the US bubble is very focused on just what's going on in the US. Even our news cycle is pretty much just centered around what's happening in the US. Everyone is working with a more individualist mindset where they're focused on their own life, their own money, their own grind, and is too busy wrapped up in their own life to think about what's going on in the rest of the world and what the rest of the globe is experiencing. And so I think that is something that is by design, kind of like the climbing of the corporate ladder.
Sure.
And I think all of that is by design. And it's meant to just make you committed to being a worker bee in America. That's my belief. But being outside of that, it for me, the whole world opened up for me when I came to Ghana, and I realized that I had real options, and that it wasn't just work for a company that doesn't respect me in America, or maybe try to be a starving artist or something like that. But you have a myriad of options. It's just up to you to do the research and commit to them and have no fear.
Yeah, you articulated that perfectly, because
Thank you.
so many people feel that way. So many people are thinking that the U.S. is it. And they're oftentimes at a point of despair. It's like, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know, some people are struggling with their finances and they don't realize that the finances, the amount of money that they're earning in the States, how much further it can go
Somewhere else.
somewhere else.
100%.
And they can still have the amenities, or if they're willing to adapt and learn and adjust some of their preferences a little bit, then they might find, because I know that when I came here, I was like, okay, it's different. But now when I land here, I feel the same way I feel when I land in DC. I have my spots, my places that I like. Yeah, I know where to go. I flow. And so, but what it does, something else you said, you discovered a new person in yourself. And that's the part I think we miss out on, because that's the real value.
It is.
Because you'd be a bubble person. You know, you'd be doing the same thing. And now you're able to get outside of the bubble and see the world differently and have a different perspective. How have your perspectives changed, if any?
It's definitely changed. I'm a lot more grateful, I would say. My first month here, when my family would call and ask, like, how do you feel? What's different? I would just say, I'm so spoiled. Like, I didn't realize how spoiled that I was. And so even to be able to come to Ghana and be able to take advantage of like the currency rate difference and have so many opportunities in front of me, I had to really check my own privilege and realize how grateful I should be for the position that I was born in. That is not something that I felt before coming to Ghana. I had an angst for life, just because being a Black American, I think that a lot of us can feel scorned and disrespected and just like, ugh, you know?
Yeah, I know.
There's a weight to it. There's a heaviness to it. And coming here, it's so nuanced just being in this position, but coming here, I was able to find a lot of gratefulness for the position that I was born into that I didn't have before.
Very interesting. So it sounds like it matured you.
Yes.
You know, that's
yes.
And that's what a lot of times what international travel will do, but even domestic travel, even within the U.S., depending on where you go, because there's so many different cultures in the U.S., but it's nothing like the international aspect, and then coming to the continent, because you learn patience.
Exactly.
On so many different levels. So you take 20-somethings and they begin to travel. How do you encourage them? Because it's always expensive to travel. I don't have the money to do it. How do you encourage them with that?
You do need a savings. You definitely need to have a savings and a plan and a budget. But for me, with Ghana, I'm able to make it work for like monthly. My monthly bills are a fraction of the price of what they would be in the US. It's really just the plane ticket.
Yeah, the plane ticket was serious, wasn't it? It was serious. Yeah. It's December. It's December out here.
The plane ticket is serious, but if you can budget, because you have to hustle in the US and you have to grind and you have to make a dollar stretch in a lot of cities in the US. So I feel like if you can do it there, then you can definitely do it here. You just have to come with a plan and with a savings that you can fall back on before you can begin international travel. I think it really boils down to research and good planning.
Okay. Would you give up your US dollars and then, exchange those dollars for the CDs and kind of go on the CDs economy?
Yeah. I think it is important to still be earning USD. I am still earning USD while I live in Ghana, to be transparent about that. So I don't know. I haven't had to work in Ghana yet, so I can't speak to that. But
no, you got it. You understand.
Yeah. I would continue working and earning USD in any way that you can.
And
while traveling.
One thing that people wonder is whether or not they can. I know a lot of people who are working remotely, and they're able to do that successfully. So just know that if you do have that ability, you may find where you can live somewhere for 2 or 3 months, and you're still earning your U.S. dollars. I always encourage people to keep the U.S. dollars.
Keep your U.S. dollar.
Or your euros or your pounds, because that's who controls the global economic system. That's just the bottom line. So if you have that and you know how to invest it, and sometimes you can invest in the currency exchange, meaning knowing where to go. Yeah, I'll give you a good example. When I first came to Ghana, the exchange rate was 4.75 Ghanaian cedis
really?
to one US dollar.
Wow, okay.
So it's like 14, 15 to that now. So let's say, for example, if I now if I bring 10,000 US dollars and I go get 160 or 150,000 Ghanaian cedis, let's say it goes back to that 4.75. Now that I have that much more in Ghanaian cedis, so it now,
interesting.
yeah, so
That's just something I haven't thought about.
yeah, so that's something that I learned too. I was like, oh, wait a minute, if this now goes back to that point, it could be 1-to-1 at some point. But I got it at 15-to-1.
Yeah.
So currency exchange is definitely, or currencies are another form of investment. You just got to kind of know what it is. But I would not give up my U.S. dollars.
Yeah, I don't think you should.
Yeah, I wouldn't give up my U.S.
now.
Yeah, I wouldn't give up my U.S. dollars. And so, but you said something really key: having a good plan and making sure that what are some essential elements of a good plan, because you did it.
Yes.
And you're doing it. You're here.
Okay. Essential elements of a good plan when it comes to international travel is research, budgeting, understanding the lay of the land, what's a good place for you to get the hotel or the Airbnb, connecting with people that are already there. If you're coming to the continent, I think there are enough resources to where you could have someone here ready to meet you when you touch down, and another expat ready to meet you when you touch down, so that you can be given the rundown and you don't have to figure it all out on your own. Yeah. I think it's knowing your limits, letting it be known what you want to do, how much you want to spend, what you're willing to give. Yeah.
So with the computer and technology age, and with the Gen Z or millennials, young millennials, are you Gen Z? I think you're Gen Z. I think you're. Yeah, you're Gen Z.
I'm an old Gen Z.
You're old Gen Z, borderline young millennial.
Right. Old Gen Z, yeah. So
that's a tech. I think all the generations are tech generations now, because I've seen some 90-plus-year-olds with the iPads and everything, and I'm like, whoa, and they're getting better than some other people, yeah. But what would you say to them as far as, have you had any technology challenges here? Has it been, because some people are thinking they don't have phones here, they don't have computers, they don't have cars. They're wondering if they wear jeans or have clothes or anything. So any challenges like that?
We have all those things. Everything that you just listed is available in Ghana. If you do experience issues with like internet or electricity, there are places you can go that do have generators. So kind of in the US, it's a WeWork facility, and there are places like that here in Ghana you can go to work remotely if your apartment itself is not the most reliable. So there's options. This is a city. Accra is a city where people are working and need access to electricity and internet, and there are places you can go where you can have that consistently.
Is everybody around here starving?
No.
Starving and just
no.
Anybody, because people are thinking everybody's starving in Africa, and of course they make Africa a monolith. What's some of your favorite dishes, Ghanaian dishes?
Ooh, that's a good question. I actually love garden egg stew.
Okay.
Contumre.
Yeah, contumre.
You love that, right?
Yeah,
I feel like we all love contumre. And what else? Gobe. It's is it gobe? It's like black eyed peas and plantain.
Is it red?
Or red? No. Yeah,
red. Okay, red. Okay.
Red.
All right, yeah.
So those are my faves. Those are my go-tos. And kenki with saltfish.
Okay.
So good.
What about banku?
I can't.
You can't do banku?
No, I can't do banku. I tried.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a bankuist.
Really?
Yeah.
And tilapia?
With my hands.
Really? Yeah, of course. You have to.
Yeah. And so banku, and then
tilapia?
Absolutely.
Really?
And then I can do red all day. Wache. What about wache?
Wache. Yeah, I love wache.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the black eyed peas that do it for me.
I know, right?
Yeah, I can eat black eyed peas
like
all
home.
day.
When we come back, the conversation continues. But first, a special message from one of our sponsors. Join Darren and Destiny, twin explorers, on an epic journey across the African diaspora. From Ghana to Tanzania, Ethiopia, Brazil, and beyond. Their adventures uncover the beauty, history, and culture of these countries, changing the way children see the world. Dive into the adventures of Darren and Destiny now.
That's the thing that really connected me. I didn't need DNA. I didn't need any of that when I had Wache. And I had, because I was born in South Carolina. I grew up in D.C. But when I had the black eyed peas and the rice, I was like, oh.
You're like, oh yeah.
So this is it. This is it right here. Now, as far as DNA is concerned, you've done the DNA.
I have.
What came back on your
I
DNA?
have. Most of my DNA was West African, with Congo and Cameroon leading. Ghana / Ivory Coast was like 13 or 11%, something like that. But after the research that I did and stumbling across pages like yours, I decided to go with Ghana as my introduction to Africa.
Well, you'll love Cote d'Ivoire. You should hop over and check out Abidjan. You'll love it. It has its own vibe. You'll enjoy Cameroon. It's different from Ghana. So you really can't, honestly, you really can't compare the different countries, even in the West, because they're very similar, but they're very different. So Cameroon is the French, Cote d'Ivoire is the French, but then in Cameroon you have some of the English as well, but the food is great in Cameroon. The food is great in Cote d'Ivoire. They have a kind of a French, in Cote d'Ivoire, it's kind of a French twist to it, but it's still Ivorian. It's still Ivory Coast. It's still African.
Yes.
So
That's very cool.
Are there any countries that you would like to visit that you haven't?
I've heard great things about Tanzania. So you've been there?
Yeah, I've been there.
Nice?
I love Tanzania.
I think that's next on my list.
So yeah, mainland and Zanzibar.
Yeah,
Get to those.
Zanzibar.
Yeah, so you can do Dar es Salaam, or Arusha is actually my favorite city in Tanzania. And that's typically when you're going out to the Serengeti, you go through Arusha. But it's just kind of a vibe there. It's a local vibe, but it has like these cafes that are just real chill. Everybody's chill in Arusha.
That. Is it beachy?
Well, Zanzibar is.
Beaches? Yeah. That's a big priority of mine, to stay close to the ocean, stay near a beach, just because it brings me peace. So
okay, well then
that was attractive for me.
The Indian Ocean is a very calm ocean in that part of the Indian Ocean. And Zanzibar is very different from mainland Tanzania.
Okay.
So it's a more Arab culture, but it's still African. It's very interesting because the Portuguese were there. So you see this Euro-Arab-African mix.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting place. But the people are very nice. And the beaches, you'll definitely remember the beaches. So Tanzania. Yes. Kenya too. You can check out Kenya while you're over there.
Yes, I have to go to Kenya.
Any of your family come over?
Both of my parents have visited the continent before I even made the decision to come. Yeah, both my parents have visited.
Where did they go? What countries?
South Africa and Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah. So they understood. They were supportive. Of course, they were a little nervous, but I think they understood what I wanted because they had already visited themselves.
But as a child, they probably knew that you were gonna do something different. I mean, were you always like this? The adventurous one, the curious one?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've always wanted to just create my own path. I don't want to just do what everyone else is doing. You know what I mean? I wanted to explore for myself. You only live once. I wanted to create a life that is authentic to me and my values. And so I think they always expected that much. Maybe not Africa, but I think they always expected me to create my own path.
So what's next for you? All right, you've been here.
What's next?
Yeah, what's next?
See some more countries. Go to Tanzania, go to Kenya, do some volunteering. Everyone says I should start a business. Literally everyone that I talk to in Ghana says, start a business. So that's something that I'm thinking about, but I'm really just trying to get a full understanding of the environment before I try to influence it. So I'm just still getting to know Ghana.
Good, good. Because sometimes people come in and they want to change it without even understanding it.
Exactly.
And
then
it's
important to read the room first.
You got to read the room
before you start decorating.
I like that. Got to read the room before you start decorating. Y'all get that? All right. So for some people, it went over their heads. They're like,
they'll catch on later.
They'll catch it later. Well, it has been a pleasure.
Yes.
And this all comes from, I'm telling you, I meet some of the most fascinating people doing what I do. Sitting on a plane, and you don't understand sometimes the reach that you have or the influence that you have. But now, Janai coming here and speaking to so many people, you transcend generations, because you don't speak like somebody who's 26 years old. You speak like somebody who's been here before and seen some things and learning, and very humble, but also very grounded and understanding that there's something more. And that's what I hope is always conveyed, that there's more to what's going on in the U.S. I love the U.S. I love my people in the U.S.
We do.
That's where I was born. But I tell people all the time, it's not always about one or the other. I descend from here. I was born there. So it's not either or, it's both. And I represent my ancestors from here and my ancestors in the U.S. And they paved the way. Many of them did not have the opportunity to travel. They didn't know to travel, but they sacrificed so that me and the generations that come after me have the ability to do it. So when I see you, it's like you're living the dreams of many of our ancestors and what many of them didn't even know what they were doing, but they wanted us to have more opportunities. And so by you sharing this, hopefully someone else will see it and it will inspire them to get outside of that bubble, because sometimes that bubble can keep you from realizing your full potential. Maybe there's another person outside of the bubble that you're supposed to become, but it's comfortable, or we've been programmed or conditioned to stay in that space. But Janai, you've gotten outside of it.
Yes.
And so I hope that you can see all the countries that you think to go to, whether it be in Africa or Europe or South America. Go to Brazil. I'll throw Brazil in.
Yes, for sure. That's on my list.
Yeah, Brazil. Go to
It's funny that you say that.
Salvador and Bahia, the state. Go
I
there.
have that written down in my journal, Salvador.
Go
Yeah.
to Salvador.
Okay.
And you were talking about where you would blend in. You blend in Salvador. You'll blend in over in the east, and go to Mali. So some places that you can go and just kind of. Now, the minute you open your mouth, it's going to give away. That's
The
what-
Americanness.
Yes.
Yeah, can't hide it.
Yes, that's just what I am. All right, everybody. We've been talking to Janai Ghana.
Yes.
And it's been a fascinating conversation. 26 years old, here in Accra, Ghana, by herself. But she's really not by herself, because she's established a community
that supports her, and that's a beautiful thing. So I hope that we inspire you to go travel, see the world. You have one life to live. Make the most of it. So until next time, please take care, be safe, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.